So the meeting is being recorded, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So howdy, welcome to the Zoom introduction for BESC 201, section 700. I'm so glad that you guys can make this meeting. It really helps if you can get kind of an overview of the course, and I get to kind of share some details about the course that are listed in Canvas, but there's a lot there. So I want to make sure that I set you up for the most success. So we'll start with a little bit of an introduction, and we'll talk about some of the assignments, and we'll feel free to ask questions along the way, but we can open it for questions at the end as well. Oh, let me find my PowerPoint. Sure. So, can everyone see my PowerPoint? Great. All right. So we're going to have an introduction. I'll give you a bit introduction to who I am. We'll talk about the course, how it was designed, why it is the way that it is, and then a little bit about the syllabus. So this is me. My name is Dr. Katie Stoddard. I'm an instructional associate professor. I've been teaching at A&M since 2015. I'm also an associate director for the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning at the Center for Teaching Excellence. So that means that I have a split appointment. I'm both faculty and an admin or an administrator. That also means that I have a lot of offices and I split my time all across campus. If you need to email me, the best way to do it is through Canvas. And the reason being is it sends me 2 emails. I have a Canvas system. I have a Canvas system that has my inbox for just my students, and it sends it to my regular inbox. But I get a lot of emails with the admin role. And so I don't want your emails to slip through the cracks. So the best way to email me is through Canvas. It also tags you as to what course you're coming from or what section you're in. And that helps me faster identify how I can help you. But I have given you my outside email if you would like it. My office, one of my offices is in the plant pathology building on West Campus, but I'm not there. I'm only there about 50% of the time and sometimes less. It all depends on the week and what's going on. So if you really want to meet with me, then the best way to do that is to schedule an appointment and make a note that you want to have an in-person meeting, and then we can do that. But I do have a way in Canvas that you can go and schedule an appointment and put yourself on my calendar. And that eliminates the back and forth, trying to find a time that you're available and a time I'm available. I stopped setting office hours because so many times students weren't available during the times that I selected. So I am just flexible. Just ask me and let me know when you want to meet. So a little bit about me. So I'm a graduate of Texas A&M. I actually have my degree in bioenvironmental sciences, the course that this is based out of. So I earned that degree back in 2001. No, 2005. I started in 1. And then I went on and got my master's in water management and hydrologic science here at Texas A&M. This water management program still exists. I was in the inaugural program. And then I went and worked for KBA Enviroscience. They've been since bought up by a different environmental consulting firm, but I did work as a consultant for between 18 months to 2 years when you combine all of my experience. It was really useful. I've used it a lot when I've teach now, but found out that just wasn't my passion. My passion, it really is teaching and educating. So I came back and I got my PhD from the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas. I really loved my time there. I worked on pharmaceuticals in the environment and risk assessment, and I really enjoyed that. And then from there, I was hired at Texas A&M Texarkana, way out in East Texas. I was there for 2 years. I was made a department head. I started an environmental program there. But I got recruited back here largely because of the network that I built when I was a student. And so I've been here since 2015 teaching in the program. And I've been really excited to really do a full circle and be back at Texas A&M. So I do love A&M. I've loved teaching here. I think the students are amazing, and I'm so glad to have you all in my class. So that said, this is going to be a little bit different than maybe most Zoom meetings. Zoom meetings can get really boring and really fast, and I don't like to talk all that much. So what we're going to do is we're going to have breaks where you guys are going to go into a breakout room and chat for a moment just to get to know each other, because online classes are notorious for feeling like you're in a silo. So I want you to have some idea who's in the class with you. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to lose this image once you go into the breakout room. So I'm going to tell you, stand up wherever you're at, stretch around a little bit, and then exchange this information with the people in the room. My name is, and I enjoy the following. So I'm going to set up your breakout rooms now. And you guys are going to go. There's going to be 3 in one room and 2 in another room. Okay, ready, go. All right. So you should have had a chance to meet a couple of people. So, and I think we've a new person has joined us as well. Okay. Are we still seeing my screen? Okay. So I like to tell you all that there's a lot of planning that has gone into this course. I've taught it since 2015 here. I taught it for 2 years before that, and it's gone through many, many revisions. And I've gone through a lot of professional development as an educator to improve it over the years. And I improve it and make continual improvements to it. But I do tell you that I have gone through the American Council on Education certificate program for effective college instruction, and it's through the Association of College and University Educators, and it's called the Effective Practice and Framework for Effective College Instruction. And this was a year-long program that I started before the pandemic, like right before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit, and they said, "Do you want to stay in? Do you want to leave?" Everything was crazy, and I opted to stay. But it was a lot of work. I did it on nights and weekends. It was probably 10 hours every week on top of everything else that I did. But in each section, I learned new things that I can include in my courses to improve the student learning outcomes, to improve the student experience. And I tell you all that to know that a lot of this is built into the course, and the course isn't some random choice of assignments or anything like that. Everything is scaffolded and planned and maps back to learning outcomes. And so I've spent a lot of time trying to improve this course and your student experience in the course. So I just want you to recognize that when you wonder, why am I doing something? It's not random. It was absolutely scaffolded and planned. And if you really want to know, I can show you the maps and show you everything that made it what it is. But there's a lot of intentionality that goes into this course, and I just want you to wanted you to know that. You also need to know, if you haven't realized it yet, that you're in a core curriculum course. So this is a core curriculum course for the life and physical sciences. And I need to tell you that because there's things that we have to include by state law and by the Texas State Coordinating Board. And those things include critical thinking, communication, empirical and quantitative skills, and teamwork. And you need to know that those are required to be embedded. And I've worked to make those as seamless as possible and make them the most authentic learning experiences as possible. The one that is usually the kicker for the online class is the teamwork. And I get that, like, you're in an online class that's asynchronous, and trying to do a teamwork project can be challenging. But I will tell you that I think you have an advantage because you have a 15-week semester. Some of my students take this in the summer in 5 weeks, and they have to do a team project in 5 weeks, and some of them are across the world. So at least for the most part, you're all probably in the same time zone, hopefully. And we can do this. So I provide a lot of support and structure and scaffolding for that team project to try to give you the best success. So I will support you along the way, but I do need you to recognize that that's why it's there. It has to be there. So this is the textbook. It's the Environment, the Science Behind the Stories by Withgott and Lopsaata. I use the 7th edition, but you could get by with the 6th edition. The textbook hyperlink for purchasing the ebook or renting the book is in the syllabus. The bookstore at Texas A&M has both a loose leaf option. I think they have a loose leaf option or like an ebook option. They have multiple options, but you only need one. But you do need access to the book. You will need the book. You will probably not earn as high of a score if you don't have it, because you won't be able to do the reading. You won't have as much information for the reading quizzes that we'll talk about later, and some of the assignments that reference specific things in the book. So please make sure you get it. If that is a hardship, then talk to me and I might be able to talk with the publisher and see if we could work something out. I also have, I think there are some books on reserve at the libraries. Okay, so here are the methods of evaluation for the course. There's one thing that you'll notice that is not in this course. Does anyone pick up on what is not in my course for evaluations?
Yes.
Exactly right, Aiden. I got rid of tests around 2020, when everyone was coming back from the pandemic, and there was lots of questions about how to verify students who, if you were who you said you were when you were taking an online exam. I may or may not have crashed a learning management system with online exams. There's a lot that goes into it. And so I also really thought long and hard about it, like what was learning and what was the most effective way for me to assess learning, and realized that so many times my students just cram for an exam like any other exam, and then they forget it a week later, and then we're back at square one. So I wanted to do something more authentic that allowed you to show what you're learning in different ways that didn't require a test. So there are no tests in my class. You do have reading and mini lecture quizzes. There's 1 to 2 of those per week. There's an introduce yourself activity, many of which you have already done. We have perceptive and perusal engagements or application assignments. Perceptive and perusal are 2 different tools that are linked within Canvas, but they are both free. There's an ecological footprint mini project we'll talk about in a minute, and there's world reflections in the team project. The other thing I'll say about this here is that you'll notice that there's 1,000 points, but it could be 100, it doesn't really matter. But there's a lot of different ways to earn points. And for the most part, no one thing will tank you. So if you have a hard week and you miss some things, or you have a hard week and you don't do as well, then that's okay. That I really designed this to be a very forgiving course, understanding that life happens. And so just keep that in mind. So there's a lot of different ways to earn your points, and you have control over that. Grades will always be posted in Canvas. FYI, I can't discuss like a grade specifically with you via email. Like if you wanted to do that, we'd need to set up a meeting. And that has to do with FERPA rules. Okay, so the reading quizzes. So there's 21 of these. There's worth 10 points apiece. They open on Mondays at 8, and they're due the following Monday at 2 p.m. That's how my schedule works. Everything is generally due on Monday. That way they're not due on Sunday, because I'm not responding to emails on Sundays, especially not Sunday night at 11:59. So they close for submission on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. So that means that there's a 24-hour grace period if you need it, and I will share with you how you can use that. And then the answers become available the Thursday after due date. In order to access the reading quizzes and anything else in the course past this first week, you will need to earn a 90% on the academic honesty quiz and 100% on the syllabus quiz. This is so that I know that you know what's in the course, and that I know that you know the standards that you're held to in terms of the honor code. So I would make sure that you plan on doing those quizzes this week so that you can move on in the course next week. Because if you don't do these things, if you don't get 100% on the syllabus quiz and you don't get a 90% on the academic honesty quiz, you won't have access to the next week's module, and there will be no excuse for that. So it's just, you just didn't do it, and it will end up being late, or you won't get the credit for it. So just make sure that you do this so that you don't get behind. Okay, we're going to meet another friend. So this time you're going to get up, you're going to stretch. I'll put you in a breakout room, and you're going to exchange the following information. What is your name? If you're with someone that you've seen before, maybe you could repeat their name. Hopefully you see it on their tag. But what are you most excited about for this semester? Okay. All right, so I'm going to recreate some rooms. There y'all go. We'll see you soon. All right, welcome back. All right, let's talk about some of the assignments. So one set of assignments that we're going to do is going to come through a program called Perceptive. And again, this is free. You don't have to pay for this program. It links through Canvas, so you always just open your assignment in Canvas. But Perceptive, we're going to use this for what I'm calling application assignments. These assignments are designed to encourage you to do some independent research skills, but also to be creative and improve various forms of communication, whether those are visual or written. There are always going to be two parts to a perceptive assignment. There is a submission stage where you need to submit the thing that I tell you to create. And I always give you lots of instructions on how to do that. So pay attention to those instructions. And then after the submission stage closes, there's a 24-hour grace period. And after that grace period closes, that's when peer reviews start. So for each perceptive assignment, there will be a peer review stage where you as a student will be peer reviewing your peers. And this happens in a double blind system. You don't know who they are. They don't know who you are. Everyone's going to have an alias or that is a color, like a name, like a color, and then a dash, and then multiple numbers. So know that is coming. And if you don't do the peer review part, that will significantly impact your score, because that is an important part for the process to not only submit the assignment, but also have the critical thinking skills and the process of seeing what someone else did and getting their perspective and seeing how did they do the assignment compared to how I did it, and how would you score them on a rubric. Now, this is to say that in perceptive, you guys are not grading each other. Cannot make that any more clear. That is not how the system works. It's way more complicated than that. It collects a lot of data, and then I use that data with my own grading to assign the grades. So please know that you are not grading each other. It's just not how the system works. We will always access these third-party tools through Canvas. That is really important. Do not try to go to perceptive.com. It will fail for you, and you will end up asking me questions that will tell me that you didn't listen to this piece of instructions. So always go through Canvas. It will link to the assignment, and then it will pass your grade back very seamlessly. And there will be more instructions about perceptive later. We're also going to use a program called Perusal. And Perusal is designed to encourage students to have dialogue and discussion around a text or a video or things that I've posted that are related to the course. So we're going to use Perusal for you to have a discussion about course-related materials. The first one is an introduction assignment that gets you rolling on how to use Perusal, because I don't want to throw you too far into the deep end. So you get to have an introduction assignment that gives you practice on using this. One of the things you can do is you can read text and then highlight a section of that text and make a comment about it. And that comment shows up in a sidebar, and then all the other students can see those comments and make comments on your comments. The nice thing, I really think one of the things I like about Perusal is there's a lot of different ways to earn your points. And so you get points for different things that you do in Perusal. And again, with Perusal, you will open this through Canvas. The second Perusal assignment we do is a case study on sea otters. That's relatively early in the semester. I do case studies in my face-to-face class, but it's really difficult to do that in the online class. And so I created this to give you an opportunity to engage with the course material in a way that's more similar to the face-to-face class. And so you get an opportunity to look at a real world scenario of how the things we're talking about in class happen in the real environment, and then have a discussion with your classmates about it. All right, so there's another assignment called the Ecological Footprint Mini Project, and this spans the entire semester, but don't get too worried about it. It is not it shouldn't be a massive undertaking for you throughout the course of the semester. So what's the first part is you are going to calculate your ecological footprint using a website that I give you. And you answer questions about where you live and your lifestyle and what you drive and what you eat and all of these different things. And only you see this. And then at the end, it gives you some output of this is how many earths it would take to support your lifestyle. And these are the resources categories that your lifestyle uses. And it gives you your ecological footprint overshot day. And so from that is data that you'll submit. You'll submit 2 images from that. And it will also give you scenarios to explore. It'll give you things to think about that impact your ecological footprint. And from that, in part 1, I'm going to ask you to identify a habit in your life that you can track data for the entire semester. So the data that you track, it needs to be quantitative. You need to be able to track like numbers, because at the end of the semester, you're going to create a graph. But the data that you track, you need to have at least one point per week, if not multiple points. but you also need to, those points need to be comparable from one week to the next, or 1 point to the next. So for example, some very common things that people choose are the number of minutes that they shower. So they track every shower they take, they track the number of minutes. Some students will track the number of meatless meals that they eat. Now, this is assuming that they're not vegetarian. If you're a vegetarian, then that would be very boring data. But if you're not a vegetarian, you could track the number of meatless meals that you eat. Some other students track the number of miles that they drive in a car alone versus with someone else. So you need to have data that is comparable, and also manageable. Something that is an example of something that's not a great idea is the number of trash bags that you use in a week. Because just because it's a trash bag doesn't mean that that's a comparable from one trash bag to the next. One bag could be half empty, one could be like super full. So that's not a good example. So it needs to be comparable data. So you will do that. You will select, and we will give you feedback on your idea. And then you're going to give 2 updates throughout the semester. And that updates is you're just sharing your data to date. And I'm reminding you, hey, you should be collecting your data. And then at the end of the semester, you're going to recalculate your ecological footprint, and compare your results from the beginning of the semester to the end of the semester with your ecological footprint. You're going to create a graph and analyze that graph and interpret and analyze your results and do a reflection. Now, I don't require that your data improve or change over time. That's not a requirement. If you would like to take that on as a challenge to yourself, then by all means, but that's not part of this. Really, all of this is meant is to give you like hands-on experience with data that means something to you, and give you experience analyzing that data and make it meaningful. So think about what you might want to track. You also need to have, when you report what you're going to track in the first part, you need to tell me how you're going to report it, and it needs to make sense. A good option would be like putting it into a Google spreadsheet or something like that. But you do need to have a plan for how you're going to track it. Try not to make it something that's too onerous. That would be really difficult to do. You want it to just be part of like your daily routine or your weekly routine. Okay. Another assignment that we have are the worldview reflections. So your worldview is the way that you see the world. It's your perception. It's, in some ways you could say it's your opinion, but you are going to have the opportunity to explore your worldview, like what it is, because sometimes, and a lot of the times, you have a worldview, but you don't even realize that it is a worldview. You just think that's just the way the world works. So the reason that we do this is your worldview influences your actions. It influences how you behave in the world, what you go out and do, the decisions that you make, and those can have ecological and other impacts. And so I want you to be mindful of the reasons that you do the things that you do, especially as it comes to the environment. So a good example would be like someone that chose to be a vegetarian. They might have a worldview around why they were a vegetarian, and that influenced their actions on a day-to-day basis. It might also influence the car that you buy or where you live or different things like that. So this is to raise awareness, and also to give you an opportunity to practice what is called metacognition, which is thinking about thinking. So it gives you an opportunity to be reflective and think about your own thoughts and how you got there. And that can really open up some very interesting windows. So you're going to do this 3 times. So there are 3 worldview essays. And don't get too worried about an essay. I give you a prompt. I give you multiple prompts to choose from. You select a prompt that you want to write on, and then you follow the template. We'll get to that in a second. I can show you an example template. The points on this will get progressively higher. First one's 50, the next one's 55, the last one is 65. These are going to be submitted and graded within Perceptive. So that means that your worldview is going to be scored and seen by other people. Now, the reason that I do this is I used to just have students submit it to me. And then I was reading 200 essays every 2 weeks because that's how many students I have. That got very unsustainable. And the problem with that also is that it didn't give students an opportunity to see other people's worldviews. So with Perceptive, you have the opportunity to be exposed to 9 different worldviews this semester. So you get to read someone else in the class's worldview essay and see what do they think about this topic and why do they think it. And it can help expand your worldview and your view of the world, because you're going to have to go out into the world and you're going to have to work with people that see the world differently than you. But this exercise might give you a little bit of empathy into why someone might think the way that they do, and just recognizing that there's usually a reason for it. So let me I'll pull up the rubric, not the rubric, okay, let's move over to one of these. Share. There we go. Share. Okay. You will have access to these later. I will share them and embed them in Canvas, but here's an example of the first one. So this is the essay for this is the template for essay 1. So I give you notes about what you should do. You should pay attention to these things because this will set you up for success. Please use the template. It is meant to help you. If you don't use the template, I can guarantee you will not get a good grade on this assignment. So the template is meant to set you up for success. So you select one of the 3 prompts below, follow the instructions, don't put your name on the assignment, delete what you're instructed to delete. Anything that's in brackets like this, these brackets, that's meant to delete so that you don't have to keep that part. Answer the question, all of the questions. So there's going to be multiple questions to answer. So you can answer all the questions. Key to this is you need to include course terms and define them. And those course terms should make sense in your explanation. It should not be a massive stretch. It should not be the reader saying, why are they using that course term in that way? So make sure that it doesn't seem like you just dropped a definition into your explanation just to have a definition. Don't do that because you'll lose points for that. It should make sense. The course terms are the course terms that are in the glossary of the book. That's where they're at. So make sure you check and don't just randomly pick some environmental term that you think could be a course term. You should check, because if it's not in the glossary, then it's not going to count. The definitions need to have enough of the course definition to demonstrate a full understanding of that. Important details should not be omitted from the definition. Course definitions should not reappear in the reflection, and I'll show you what that is in a second. So there's a part where you explain what your worldview is, and that's where you're answering the questions and you're including your course terms and defining them. And there's a second part, which is a reflection, and you do not put course terms there. The reflection section is reflecting on a specific life experience that formed your worldview, that got you to believe what you believe. So for example, the reflection statement does not include student statements that simply say, this is what I believe, I think, my opinion. So if you are saying, I believe, I think, in my opinion, or people should, that is you telling me what your worldview is. That's just another way of saying, I think, that's my opinion. And in the reflection section, that's not what we're looking for. So let's play this out. All right, so here's an example. I always do the first one. Let's do this one. Invasive species. So I'll make this a little bit bigger. Okay, invasive species. I give you some background on this topic so that you don't have to do that. And then I tell you, explain your worldview regarding invasive species for the following 3 questions. Do all species, introduced or not, have the right to exist in an environment in which they're established? What if an invasive species drives a native species to an extinction? What action, if any, is acceptable for eliminating an invasive species and restoring nature's order, the natural habitat order? So you're required to answer all of those questions, include 3 course terms, and define them. So you'll see I say integrate and define 3 course terms and explain your worldview. Course terms should be bolded. So here you'll remove this section right here. It says remove this underlined statement and write what your worldview is. You answer those questions and you include 3 course terms. You highlight them, you define them, and you have at least 6 standard lengths of sentence or 6 lines of text. that explain what your worldview is. Let's just stop there. Does anyone have any questions about this?
Is this template on Canvas?
Yes, you will have access to it. You always have access to it.
What is
You
it?
don't have access, you can't see it right now because the assignment is, it's not public, or it's not seen, it's not published at the moment, but when it comes, you will be able to see it.
Okay.
Yep. Great question. Okay, moving on. I will tell you all this
I have a
next
quick question.
section. Yes, go ahead.
So you're talking about removing items in the brackets. Does that mean we submit this entire document with just our responses in the brackets?
Yeah, so you will, yeah, so here's what you wrote. So let's say you wanted to write on invasive species. Everything that exists before, all everything that happens before this, you would just delete. Like all of this, like up until like maybe the header, all of that would go away. So you delete all the prompts that are not the prompts that you're talking about. And then notice that these things are not in brackets. So that would stay. The reason being, and I'm so glad that you asked, is because there's 3 prompts and students get to pick. But let's say Jasmine, let's say you write on invasive species. And let's say Riley decides to write on conserving biodiversity. If she were to delete all of this, and all she had was the explanation of what her worldview is, you wouldn't have the context that you needed when you went to score her essay. So you keep your explanation, like the explanation for your prompt. But you'll notice that there are brackets. So here, this is a bracket. Remove this underlined statement. You remove everything in the brackets and you write what your worldview is. In the second part, when you're writing your reflection, you remove everything in the bracket and you write what your worldview, how you formed your worldview is. So thank you for asking that question. So the reflection, this is where students fall. I'll tell you the very common places where students always lose points. It happens over and over again, so I can always just recite them to you. The reflection place is where you are telling me details about a life experience, or you're telling your reader details about a life experience that formed your worldview. They need to be details. It needs to be like, so that we understand how you got there. So you need to provide specific details. And I will tell you, this is how I was raised. This is what my religion teaches me. This is what a taught class me. This is what a class taught me. This is what a book taught me. This is what I saw in a documentary. Those are all decent starts, but if you leave it at that, it will not be enough. You can't just say, my parents taught me to respect natural order and then be done. Like, how did they do it? What did they do? What were your experiences? Tell me about experiences. If you can't think of experiences, or they're experiences that you don't want to share, and keep in mind, no one's going to know who you are except me, then pick a different prompt. Pick a prompt that you can write on about what your life experience was. And it needs to be, we need to be able to like connect A and B. Like you need to be able to give us an explanation of what the reflection is that makes sense for what your worldview is. So provide details. Do not repeat your worldview. Do not start saying things like, I think, I believe, people should, we should. Those are all opinions. Be very careful when you read that reflection section after you've written it, and go back and look for, did I repeat my worldview? Did I just try to explain what I think instead of how I got there? So just be mindful of that, because that's a very common place that students falter. Other common places are they don't include course terms. They include course terms. They include terms that aren't course terms, but they think they're course terms, but they're not in the glossary. They don't. Another one is they just don't define course terms. That's another one. And sometimes they just don't tell me what their worldview is. They just start explaining what an invasive species is. Like, I don't need you to explain what an invasive species is. I've already done it for you. I need you to tell me what you think about invasive species and then tell me why. So there we go. Any questions? Excellent. Okay, we'll move back to the presentation. Section. Okay. All right, so moving on to the team project. Oh, my screen sharing is paused. Why is my screen sharing paused? 1 second. I want to make sure you can see everything. Share. Here we go. Okay. Moving on to the team project. There is a team project. I have designed this project so that it reflects the fact that the point of the team project, in my opinion, is for students to develop teamwork skills. And teamwork skills include things like learning to work in a group, learning to communicate with different people, learning to throw ideas out and collaborate on ideas, learning to work through difficult situations with other people that you might not agree with. It's not just the end product. The end product is great, but there's a whole process that matters. And I designed this project so that it valued the steps all the way up until the end project. So you'll notice that the whole project is worth 240 points. And there are points that you earn as an individual, and there are points that you earn from the team project, the thing that is submitted, the deliverables that are submitted at the end. So all of these other things, you'll see individual points, this column right here, team project acknowledgement and commitment. That's something you do as an individual. Personal strengths reporting, you will do that as an individual. You'll do all of these things as an individual because they're meant to help you build the skills to be successful in the team and to develop teamwork skills and to show that the whole process matters. You'll see that there is a team project. So you submit deliverables at the end. Note that percent determined by teammate evaluations. This means that there are 105 points associated with the deliverables. Let's assume that you're all on the same team and you all get like the deliverables earn 105 points based off of the rubric and my scoring. Now, if you also have a teammate evaluation over here that you need to evaluate your teammates, and that's done in a blind system where you have your teammates listed and you score them based off of how they participated in the team. How did they contribute? How did they show up? And only I see that feedback. So you are meant to score honestly. Now, let's say someone in the team gets 50% of the participation points, which means they really didn't show up. They weren't very helpful. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. If they get 50% of the participation points, then they will get 50% of the deliverable points. So if everyone else earns 105, they won't earn half of that. And that's how it would go. I have a lot of checks and balances along the way. So I am checking to make sure that the teammate evaluations are legitimate and no one's like out to get someone else. And I'm pretty lenient and I review this data very closely to make sure that the grades are appropriate, but this is meant to deter what's called free writing. So someone shouldn't be able to free write on someone else's work and expect to get the same grade. So that won't happen in this course. The other thing that I'll say about the team project, since I have some people here and I will have your attention, is I've noticed this trend and I want to make sure that it's said out loud, that part of being a good teammate is knowing what's going on in the project, communicating, being proactive in your communication. Like if you know you're not going to be able to like communicate from Wednesdays through Fridays, then make sure your teammate knows that. Like be proactive in telling your teammates when you can engage, when they can expect responses from you. Know what is going on in the project. Do not expect your teammates to catch you up every time to know what's happening. And also the last thing, which I've seen more and more, is don't expect them to tell you what to do. I've had lots of students tell me, well, I just showed up and I said, what do you need me to do? I'll do whatever you want me to do. I just want to have a short discussion about this. So let's just imagine that you're all in a group and everyone shows up and says, hey, just tell me what to do. What does that do? Riley, what do you think?
Can you repeat the question, please?
So everyone in the team shows up to the team meeting and says, all right, just tell me what to do. I'll just do whatever you want me to do. Just tell me what to do. Everyone says it. Then what?
Well, it's like you're trying to divide and conquer the work, and y'all are supposed to collaborate and talk about what you should be doing and working on it together, not just like assigning certain parts of it to each other to do individually.
That's absolutely right. So one is it moves to a cooperation rather than a collaboration, which is this is meant to be a collaboration. But the other thing is that it requires someone else to go through the mental hurdles of figuring out, okay, I guess you'll do this. And it requires someone else to be proactive. If you are saying, just tell me what to do, you're not being proactive at all. You're just like, oh, well, I just do what they tell me to do. Instead, show up to the team and say, hey, I noticed we're supposed to accomplish this week. This is what I was thinking. Maybe we could approach it this way, and I could do these portions and have everyone give me feedback this way. So be proactive. If you show up saying, tell me what to do, or just ask for assignments, you're probably not going to get the highest participation grade, because that means it requires someone else to step in for you. So with that, I also will say that I have a low stress GPA policy. This is meant for any student that needs it. I have a colleague that is now an assistant professor setting up his own academic programs at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. Highly one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. But when he was getting his undergraduate, he was working full time and taking a full load. And he said that he slept like 3 hours a night. That's how he did it. And his policy for getting through his undergraduate was to try to get C's and D's and just enough so that he didn't flunk out of school and stay in school and graduate. So I say all that there's no judgment. He's super successful and like the smartest guy I know. But if you are taking on a lot this semester, whatever that may look like to you, and this is too much, like you just can't handle the team project, you know you're not going to show up for your team, you know you're going to be basically dead weight on the project, just admit it to yourself now, accept it, and opt for the low stress GPA policy. That means that you would opt out entirely to the team project. You wouldn't earn any of those points and you'd get a maximum of C in the course, but you eliminate that stress. I'd really rather you admit this now at the beginning rather than we get 5 weeks in and someone doesn't show up to the team project consistently. There's no judgment, there's no shame, there's no problem. It's just admitting the truth and just accepting it and moving forward in a proactive way. So if you want it, it's there for you if you need it. Because I get it, life happens, and sometimes students are juggling a lot. I get it. So that's why that's there. You're not required to do it, but if you want those points, you'll need to do it. So some introductions to the team project. This is all in the course. There's a module on the team project, but in short, there are 3 deliverables. There's a final team paper, which a template will be provided. Just like the worldview, use the template. There's a real world, oh, that's supposed to be real, sorry, a real world product. This is meant to be, sorry, I'm gonna fix that because it's gonna bother me. There's a real world product. So the real world product, the reason I do this is I've gone back and forth about what the assignment should be, but I want it to be meaningful to you all, so that it matters. So it should be able to like go out into the world and it's not just ticking a box for the class. So it should be a real world product, something that matters to you. Like it could be a website, it could be an Instagram, it could be a draft for a children's book. I mean, the Lorax is a great example of a book that makes a big difference for the environment, but it's designed for children. So I want you and your team to think about what that could be. It needs to be free. You need to have the capacity to do it. And it needs to be something that's not hypothetical. You're also going to have a pitch for explaining like, hey, how would people use this thing? And the whole point of the real world product, it should be a solution for someone for the problem that your team has selected. And all of these deliverables will be based off of an environmental problem that is important to your team. I'm really looking for, as Riley said earlier, collaboration. I get it that cooperation is going to happen, but there should be collaboration on these aspects. So that means that I don't want one person assigned to the final team paper and one person assigned to the product and one person assigned to the video. That's not how this is meant to work. You guys are meant to put in together to get your ideas together, to get your to learn from each other and work with one another. So please work on that. Make sure that no one person is responsible for any one thing without checks and balances with the rest of the team. There is an individual accountability assignment. This is earlier in the semester because it prepares you, each student, to be a proactive member of the team. So it's really just the research, like the background knowledge about the topic. And so that will be due earlier in the semester so that everyone in the team is up to speed on what is the problem, what are the causes of the problem, what are the consequences of the problem, and they will have to go find a visual for it. Team formation.
Like 20 minutes. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Team formation is going to happen through a tool in Perceptive. So you're going to fill out a survey based off of, you're going to share your availability. You're going to rank topic ideas in your order of interest from most interested to least interested. And then you're going to answer some questions about your work styles. Like, how do you like to work in a group? And from that, the system will take your answers and try to group you with someone else that has similar work styles and similar interests in the topic, which is really nice because before it was more of a free-for-all. And sometimes students didn't get the topic that they were interested in because they didn't select the team in time. So I'm excited about this formation tool because I think it will set students up for success with the teams that they're in. And if there is interest, I am open to having a mini meeting on the team project later in the semester. I've already blocked it off on my calendar, and I'll send out a poll if people want it. I will do it. If they have questions and want to talk about their projects, we can do that. Okay, so to kind of bring this all together, we have weekly activities to achieve our learning objectives in the course. There's course mastery and chapter content, and that is done through reading quizzes that start on Monday at 8 a.m. and are due the following Monday at 2 p.m. There's weekly activities for course concept mastery and critical thinking. That includes reading the chapters, watching many lectures, which are always going to be accessible through Canvas. There's always going to be transcripts for them. You're always going to have access to the PowerPoints. Take notes as you need them, and there are assignments that are meant to support those things and give you opportunity to practice with it. Communication and critical thinking are going to be achieved through the worldview essays, the application assignments, the ecological footprint project. Empirical and quantitative skills comes through our ecological footprint project, obviously with that data. You're also going to have an opportunity to explore some data in the Sea Otter perusal case study. Teamwork, obviously, is where we get a team project. And course mastery comes from a variety of things, including reading, quizzes, and application assignments. Okay. All right. Let's do one last meet a friend. So in this time, you're going to go exchange the following information. What is your name? And share an interesting fact about yourself. Okay. All right. So we're going to
I had a quick question.
Yes. Yes, Jasmine.
So when it comes to did I just lose it? I'm sorry.
Okay.
My mind just went blank.
That's okay. Maybe
Yeah, I'm sorry. My mind went blank.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll come back to me.
That's fine. It'll come to you. Okay. We're gonna do this real quick. All right. You'll have about a minute and a half. All right, welcome back. We're going to move through the last things pretty quickly. I designed this course to be pretty inclusive, and I want just everyone to know that your voice has value and that we're excited to have you in this academic space. But also, please be careful to be respectful of different views, beliefs, and values that are expressed, especially when we're doing the worldviews. You're probably going to be exposed to different ideas, and so just recognize that we're going to be mindful with that and respectful of different experiences and worldviews. I support
I did
Ann's
remember my question.
Yes. What's your question?
So I I finished and completed the academic honesty quiz and the syllabus quiz, but nothing is appearing yet. When will other assignments become visible?
Thank you. I make the next week of Visible, usually no later than Saturday before it starts at 8 a.m., but I usually set it up somewhere around Friday. So I have to, there's things that I need to do, so I don't normally do it until like right before that week starts. So thanks for asking. I support A&M's commitment to diversity and welcome individuals of all backgrounds. So just know that everyone is welcome and it's meant to be a safe space for everyone to grow and learn. If you have a preferred name and pronoun, please let me know what those are. Specifically, if there's something that's happening outside of class that is adversely affecting your experience inside class, then please talk with me sooner rather than later, especially like if you need help. I've been here for almost 10 years. I was a student here for 6 years. So I know a lot of people and I know a lot of resources. And so I can set you in the right direction. But you have to talk to me. If you have ideas for incorporating scholars that are different backgrounds, then please let me know. I'd love to do that. And Aggie does not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those that do. You are held to this honor code, the Aggie honor code, whether you know it or not. Jasmine, I'm so glad to hear you say that you have finished the Aggie honor quiz. That quiz exists so that you know the code that you're held to, because you will be held to it whether you recognize it or not, and whether you acknowledge it or not. And I'm very, very serious about this. I am required to report any type of academic dishonesty, and that's actually something that's very good for you, because you don't want someone committing one type of academic dishonesty in a class and then saying, oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't know what I was doing, and then doing it again in another class. Because by the time they get to graduation, that will dilute the value of their degrees. And I think you all want your degrees and your rings and your diplomas to mean something, and this is how we get there. So know that we'll ever get reported, and I take it very seriously. So also the AI, use of AI and large language models. Don't use that for your writing. If you have questions about how, when, and where it might be appropriate, then ask me first, but definitely do not put a prompt into AI and then have it spit something out at you and submit that. It's highly unethical on lots of different levels for this class, but different professors have different standards. There is one place where I'm going to ask you to specifically ask AI for some feedback, and you'll know that when it shows up in the course. If you have a recognized disability with disability services, please let me know. The course is designed to be universally accessible, so hopefully this, most people find they already have what they need, but just let me know. I have a communication policy. Ideally, really what this is email me through Canvas. That's the best thing. Also, if you don't hear from me in 24 hours on a weekday, then please just email me again. I get an insane amount of emails, and I don't want yours to slip through the cracks. So I'm not ignoring you. I just have too many emails and not enough time. So just send me a polite email to just ping me and say, Dr. Stoddard, could you please help me with this? Absences and missed work. So I'm interested in educating you as a full student, and I recognize that lots of you have everyone has a life. Everyone has things outside of school. So the best way that I can accommodate this is I have what's called a contingent 24-hour policy. No questions asked. You can use it up to 4 times. This means that if you know you're going to miss an assignment, or you know you're going to have an assignment that's going to be late, then you go fill out this form. It's just a Google form where you give me your name, the date that you're going to use it for, and that's it for the most part. You can use it up to 4 times, and this covers things like my cat was sick, my tire exploded, my car wouldn't start, my pipes explode, like things like that. Like life happens. You don't have to tell me you're using it. You just fill out the form, and when you do, it gives you a 24-hour extension on everything that is due that day. Everything. But you have to fill it out within 24 hours of the due date, and it will only go until Monday at 2 p.m. Note that the reading quizzes will always close on Monday at 2 p.m. and the Peerceptive peer reviews, they will close. They close at Tuesday at 2 p.m. There's just no way around that. So this is meant to help. All right, absences and missed work. So my rule on notifying me of absences, if you need to contact me within 3 days, 3 working days of your last absence if you need to make up work. If you wait a week or more, or heaven forbid 3 weeks, then that window probably is going to close, because I can't be dealing with work from 3 weeks ago because you didn't bother to contact me. So note that the student rule at Texas A&M is students have 2 days, 2 working days. I give you an extra day. I will try to work with you to get a week timeline to work through that, but we can work on a schedule to get you back up. The point being is just don't get sick and don't tell me for 2 weeks. That's not very helpful at all. If something's impacting you outside of school that you need help with, please contact me. I'm meant to be here to help you succeed. Earlier is better. But don't contact me in week 13 and tell me you've had problems all semester. I will tell you, I'm so sorry. That's so hard for you. There's nothing I can do. So let me know earlier in the semester and we can find something to help you. All right. Any questions? We're like right on time.
I have a question about the textbook.
Yes.
So is that, do you either need to buy the online version or the hard copy?
Is there another option that you're aware of?
No. I'm just like, you have to have that to complete the
Yeah,
reading.
you do need the textbook. You absolutely have to have the textbook.
Okay,
I
thank
think
you.
in my syllabus, I gave what I think the cheapest option is somewhere around, I think 50 so more dollars to rent it for the semester. If it's a hardship, then let me know, because I think I can probably twist the arm of a publisher to help with that, but you do need an access to the textbook. Thanks for asking. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. It was so lovely to see you, and have some people in the meeting. So I will be posting this online, and I look forward to seeing you in the course. Yeah. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.